Welcome to this week's edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director. Thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. We're going to have what I think is going to be an interesting conversation. The last year has been interesting in a lot of ways for a lot of us in a lot of different businesses. The ones that it may have been most interesting for are business owners, our entrepreneurs, are people who invest their own money, invest their own time. They buy buildings, they do things online, and they've been trying to figure out exactly when this is going to end, what this pandemic is going to do to their business, what it's done to their customer base. And we've heard a lot about that. I want to get some firsthand knowledge from someone who has been doing a lot of entrepreneurial work in this area for a number of years, and we'll find out how many, because I'm learning. Jeremy Kean is our guest. Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing fine, and I appreciate you taking some time to kind of talk to me and inform us of what it is that's been happening to you. I mean, I would imagine that every business and every business story is a little bit different. Is that fair?
Oh, I think so. Sure, yeah.
Let's start with you. For those who don't know you, give a little background on who you are. Are you native to Wayne County? What school did you go to? Talk to us a little bit.
Yeah, I was born in Richmond, moved away a little when I was younger. I think I came back in fourth grade. Was in the Centerville school system from fourth grade all the way through graduation. Went to IU East after trying the Ball State immediately after school route. Didn't work out so well, so ended up at IU East for the college side, and actually still haven't finished that yet. I've got 4 classes left. Still trying to turn through the IU East and doing the start-stop every 10-year thing. But
you know they're going to be admissions is about to send you an email. You know that.
Yeah, I'm sure, right? Yeah, that's one thing that I can always be certain of, that they'll take me back for the last 4 classes, I'm sure. So, yeah, pretty much been doing the entrepreneur thing since I was 13 years old, mainly in Wayne County. I was gone for 4 years. I moved away to Las Vegas for a little bit, but came back and immediately got back into, the entrepreneur gig. I've done credit repair. I've done digital marketing company. I've done apparel. Currently, I'm doing fundraising, doing some coaching, some consulting, also doing the all-natural wellness company called Route 40 Home and Wellness, and then our newest endeavor, My Team Live, which is streaming live high school sports for fans at home that can't get to the game or with the COVID restrictions aren't able to go to the game. So.
You said you did your first entrepreneur thing when you were around 13. What did you start? Was it paper route? Were you cleaning garages? What's the deal?
Whitewater Valley disc jockeys. I was a DJ.
Really?
Yeah, we did after school games and proms, and then we ended up getting into weddings. And yeah, it was really weird being a 15-year-old doing a wedding, a consult where you're talking to this bride and groom about songs that they're going to have and which one for her. And I'm like, what am I doing? I know nothing about any of this. But hey, we had equipment and we were cheap. So yeah, we did the people that couldn't afford the good DJs. We did those probably. So yeah, we were doing weddings when we were 15, then, frat parties and things as we got a little older. A friend of mine, still a good friend of mine, he worked at Reed now. He actually partnered up with me on the DJ thing. He went one way, I went the other, and we kept scaling it. My dad drove us until we had our license, and then we finally were able to go to our own thing. So that's how it all started.
Have you ever actually worked for someone, or have you always been your own driver? Have you always been the person that kind of said, no, I'm going to be my own boss regardless?
I managed Domino's Pizza for a couple years when I was 18. When I was getting into the mortgage industry, I started the pizza thing. And the mortgage industry, I worked for a company for a year before I figured out how to get my own broker's license, and then had my own broker, mortgage broker company for several years, probably 12, 15 years. Did real estate, worked for another company there just so that I could get to the status that I needed with the state to become my own real estate broker. So yeah, there's always that thread of, I think I've worked 2 other mortgage jobs that were considered a W-2 job where I actually had a boss and a structure like that. I think most of those had a bit of an entrepreneur framework, even when they were classified as a W-2. I mean, there's a certain element that you're really your own boss with. But technically speaking, I think I had three jobs that were not my own per se. But the vast part of 30 years has been my own boss for sure.
What drives you? What drives you to start a business, to think about how you can take an idea and make it your own and survive with it? Because that's not in everybody's DNA.
No, you're right. I definitely think we're a rare breed to a certain extent. I think it just comes down to what drives me is just that never wanting to answer to really anybody else. I want my ideas, my thoughts, my work to be mine, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's the risk that you take, is that, it is a big risk to go somewhat against the grain and to innovate and to come up with it. But I also believe that that's the bigger reward, whether it be financial or whether it be your reward back to community, to society. You're able to control it, and you don't have anybody else telling you anything, how to be, how to run it, what you're supposed to stand for, when you can make those rules, you can make it to be whatever you want it to be. So, and in days like, current times like now, I'm even more thankful for being able to do things on my own like that, because I'm not in a position where I have to potentially make decisions that aren't necessarily what I believe in, just to hang on to a job or to hang on to a customer base or whatever. And I think there's a lot of people out there in that spot right now, and it's, making it tough on them for sure.
I want to ask you a question that maybe veers a little bit off the entrepreneurial thing, but this is, we talked a little bit before. This is going to be kind of wide ranging. You mentioned that you stepped away for a little while, went to Vegas. Talk to me about why you decided to come back here. What you've chosen to do, you could do anywhere. There are warmer climates, there are wetter climates, there's oceans, there's mountains there. Why here? What is it about this area that brought you back and continues to make you want to make this home?
We often joke, that Richmond has this magnetic property to it, that even when you talk about always wanting to get out. And then when you do finally get out, even when it's in this case, Vegas, and for me, paradise, it's just something happens always that ends up, and you see it all the time. When you are here, you see people you haven't seen in years. Like, where are you at now? Oh, I just moved back. I mean, it never fails. So, for me, in this case, it was the market crash of 08 when Bear Stearns and all the banking world came toppling over. I was knee deep in the mortgage business out in Vegas, and again, kind of like the COVID thing with fundraising, it just, everything came to a pause and a stop, and it had nothing to do with what you were doing, and you were at the bottom end of that. So, we had to pivot again pretty quickly and figure out, what we were going to do. That's, at that point, that's a lot of what I had done was in that. So regrouped and decided to move back, and moved back here, where it literally was just because if I'm going to have to start over from scratch, I'd prefer to do it in a cheaper cost of living area where there's a lot of family and friend support. And, that was back here. So that's why we moved back. And, I think I was only in the mortgage thing remotely for another year before I went into credit repair, which was kind of a spinoff of the mortgage side. It just wasn't, I was pretty chapped from the mortgage business. I was burnt out, and then having it all swept out, all the hard work just done in one day, and have to restart it. And that flame kind of went down pretty quick. So I went to something that was fairly close and had somewhat of the same clientele within the real estate and the mortgage world that I knew. Did credit repair for a while, and then sold that business. and got into digital marketing, and then kind of started the next bit. But I think that answered your question. I'm not sure. Sometimes we get off on a little bit of a tangent.
You're all right. We have time. You can do on a tangent. You're
All
watching
right,
In
good.
Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're having a chance to spend some time with Jeremy Kean, entrepreneur. We'll talk about some of his various businesses in just a little bit. Want to before we get into the businesses themselves a little bit, want to talk about the challenges of the last year, because those of us who don't own a business, work for people, know that things have been rough, that things have been tight. But when you're the person who people are relying on for their home, their livelihood, the decisions that you make become important, not just for yourself, but for other people. Talk about what this last year has been like as you have tried to navigate the time of COVID or the pandemic.
Oh man, 2020. I would say from a 50,000 foot view, it was the scariest year that I can remember in 30 years of being my own boss for the most part. Mainly reason being is this was the first time in my own business. When we went through the '08 situation, that was me working inside of another business, which is inside of an entire market that we all knew nobody had any control over, right? But when you do fundraising for schools and you do it for, the better part of the last 9 years, there's a predictability that comes along with it. You're not always right, but the best predictor of future is past, right? So we do that a lot with forecasting and marketing and how are we going, all that business stuff. We're looking at past trends and past things. And for the first time, I'm like, no, what's going on right now means nothing. Everything, all those data points mean nothing. So for the first time, you're really in business blind. You're swinging for the fences and you're completely blind. And so you can imagine if you were just all of a sudden one day to wake up and you didn't have eyesight, you're in a freak out mode. I mean, this is brand new territory. You've never really had no ability to have anything relevant to look at to be able to make any decisions. So that's one of the, I think for me, it's a pet peeve, and I check myself on it all the time. Am I just swinging on for the fences? Have I researched properly? Have I looked at the data? Have I, because I can tend to be a bit impulsive. So I've really tried to channel that back over the years. And this was like one of those where if you're not impulsive, you're going to die. So, and I don't mean to sound drastic, but for me, being a certain level of impulsive is required here. So when you're over here kind of doing some self-therapy on making sure that you're not impulsive and making too many rash, quick decisions, and now, you're not quite all the way through your 12-step program, and now it's survival. You have to, you absolutely have to be instinctive, impulsive, and make quick decisions, or it's gone. Because the other thing with 2020, it was the fastest paced, fastest moving year I've ever seen. And not just from a calendar perspective, but things that normally you would take into consideration for 3 months to make a decision on, or a trend that you were looking at, you would look at it for a couple of weeks. It became very clear by about April or May that if you sat on things that long, you were missing out. So now you're looking at making decisions in 3 days over things that would be like a 3-month kind of decision, like starting a whole company. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have that year to think about it, to track, to see the market, to put your financing together, to make sure it was all optimal and you had a staff. And it was, no, that's a good idea. And if we don't have it open by Monday, this is on a Tuesday of the week before, then somebody else is going to do this. So it was the weirdest year that I've really ever had. And I can't really say that 2021 so far hasn't been just as crazy. So, this may be the crazy train of more time than what we all wanted, but it is what it is. It's stuff that you can't control. It's things that you just have to either deal with or quit. and I don't believe in quitting. So pivot has become the word for 2020/21.
How do you decide what businesses you think will work for you and what you've talked about? Mortgage, credit recovery, real estate, fundraising, streaming, of all the things that come across your mind, come across your desk, that you're in conversations with people about, how do you make the decision which ones to pull the trigger on and which ones to go, nah?
I'd like to say that I have this formula for it, Eric. I kind of just came up with one while you were asking the question, so I'll kind of
Was the question that long?
no, not at all. It hit me right in the head real quick that I'll just try to do this little impromptu thing. But when I go back and look for me personally, it all starts with help. You know, what can I help somebody with? And then what do they need help with, so that make sure that there's something that connects there. And then if that's the case, then is this something I can give value to them while making money at myself? And then the last part is, can I scale it and make it a business? And, you know, most things, believe it or not, fall through in one of those little spots along the way. And this year, several made sense and several hit those. Now, some of them ended up being, okay, that was really a bad idea. Let's put the brakes on that really quick. But that's no different to me than somebody in the stock market that they're buying this stock, they're tracking it, they're trading daily, they're realizing, okay, that didn't perform like I thought it was, dump it, move on, take your little loss and focus on some wins over here. And as long as the wins outdo the losses considerably, then you're doing well. But all of the business I've been involved with really started with that help. You know, I'm helping people. I didn't really go after, in the mortgage business, for example, I didn't really go after and market to the people that were wanting a better rate than First Bank Richmond, and that, can you beat Wells Fargo? And I was looking for the person that had been turned down 10 times and lost hope in buying a house. And I'm like, hey, come on, let me work with you for 6 months. We'll get your credit score and your income and wherever it needs to be based on these companies that say you're missing these marks. Let me work with you. And then we worked 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and, you know, certain ones came through and they did what we showed them to do, and then they were able to buy a house. I'm not going to lie and say selfishly, there was more money in that. You worked a heck of a lot harder for it, and your chances of completing them were a lot less than those other ones. But when you did, it was a good payoff. So I never had anybody really complain or argue about what we were charging them, because they're not renting anymore, they're buying a house. And that made sense to me. I'm like, okay, I can make a good living and help somebody out. And then from that point on, it was pretty much that same way. All the other businesses, they really have that core element of whatever you're doing, service or product basis, helping someone. And then it's also allowing us to create a business out of it that provides jobs and you know, supports the community and makes us money as well.
How important is that piece of it? Supports the community. You've mentioned here, you've mentioned family support, you've mentioned community a few times. How important is that to you in what you decide to do?
I mean, just top two for sure. We believe everything works in kind of a three-way. We call it our triple win system with SUDS, and that's the community wins when they're getting a product that's a good product, they're not paying for all the marketing and all the hoopla, the money that they would normally be paying for brand name. They're getting the same product, but that money is going to a local non-for-profit that's always looking for other ways and means and methods of raising money for their cause. So even though we're just a small company that can only help so many teams or so many organizations per se as a whole, when we can bring in other organizations in the community, churches and other nonprofits that do, homeless shelters, do food banks, do all kinds of different things that are good for the community. We just put a product line together that allows the community to make that decision instead of big box retailers and create that 3 wins. So now they're supporting a local nonprofit with a purchase. They're not donating money, they're purchasing, they're getting a good product and value in return instead of being asked to donate. Now this nonprofit organizations, our second win in the community. And then the third win is us. We're a business who's making profit, who's supplying jobs, who's helping in that regard. And the more people continue to support there, the more we get supported. So there's a third win there too. And it's our capitalistic way of doing things by creating businesses that make money and continue to provide jobs, good jobs and good paying jobs in the community. So that's what we do.
Wouldn't that capitalistic thought process actually put you as the first win? You ended up the third win in that wheel. Isn't that a little bit off?
I learned a long time ago the give to get principle of business and marketing especially, and it's always worked. So I've just never went away from it. I'll either make a product or I'll put together product, service, something that I think the market needs, that people will find value in. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but the ones that I'm right, as long as that value proposition's there, it's always a viable thing. And if you can figure out how to teach other people to do that piece, now it gives them opportunities, gives them jobs, and creates more profit for our business. So that's what I'm right now really just focusing on, is what do we have in this arsenal that we've kind of built with my experience and knowledge, but all these other services and products and fundraising. Fundraising just screams to me because I just feel like people do it wrong. And I've shown over here, and we see how a lot of teams and organizations have been able to do it and do it very successfully, creating a value proposition. Business owners like myself and consumers, I feel like get tired of getting hit up with the same old gimme, gimme, gimme approach. And I just feel like that's an education void. I don't think nonprofits want to do that. That's all they know in some cases, or all the time that they have to be able to allot to it is doing it a certain way that's always been done. I just feel like the market's ready for a change, ready for something different where they actually get something in return. And it's not a candy bar they don't need, or some other little thing that they're probably going to put in the white elephant gift pile for the next holiday get together. And, so that's what we do, is we try to put products together that people use already, let the profit go to this organization over here instead of big box retailers. So we'll see if this one works in the long run or not. But to your point, man, we feel like we're going to be taken care of in the long run. So we don't mind becoming the third part of that win, because I feel like for us to become a long-term win, I can come up with all kinds of things that can come in and do a short-term win. But to be able to do a long-term win for all parties involved, over time, the value proposition has to be in equilibrium. One side can't continue to always just give and not get from the other side, or that relationship fractures. So knowing that's kind of how it works, we want to make sure everybody else is whole on the front end, and when they are, we know that we'll be taken care of in the back end.
Hi, I'm Mayor Dave Snow.
And I'm Commissioner Ken Poust.
And I'm Angie Dickman with Reed Health, and we're all here to implore you to wear your masks, especially through this holiday season. At Reed, we really don't want you to come visit us or anybody in your family, so please wear your masks. That's the best way to stay healthy.
And Wayne County, in working with the City of Richmond, is very happy to provide the masks. We have over 150,000 masks here today. We hope to give every one of them out, and then we'll have some more to give out into the spring. Right, Dave?
That's right. We want to keep our economy flowing. We want to keep our businesses open, and we want to keep you healthy and safe. So please wear your mask, socially distance, stays healthy through 2021. Let's have a better year next year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I appreciate you watching today's program or even listening to today's program. You may be watching it live on WGTV Channel 11. You might be viewing it on our video on demand site, WGTV Online. Maybe you're listening to the audio portion on G1013 or their sister station, 1490 and 100.9. WKBV, ESPN Radio, however you're picking up this program, we do greatly appreciate you spending some time with us. We're talking with Jeremy Kean, a local entrepreneur, about how he's kind of gotten where he is. Want to go a little bit and talk about what he has been able to create. You've mentioned SUDS a couple of times, the fundraising piece. Before we focus on some of the individual businesses, between you and your wife, you all are into 4 or 5 businesses right now, or is my number low?
No, I think you're probably about right. I think it's 4 or 5. We sold one a few months ago, and sold one a few months ago, and kind of just dabbling with some potential stuff in the future, but nothing to speak of. So yeah, Route 40, the wellness side, the candle side, the fundraising company with SUDS, my wife's boutique downtown, Kelly's boutique, and then our newest venture with My Team Live. So yeah.
Was that a little scary moving into the downtown area? That's an area that seems to continue to, there's a focus on it. There continues to be a focus on it, but it's still kind of a slow march. What, if I can ask, what was the thought process into going into that building in that location?
I think it really came down to there was very limited space that was set up, kind of like Kelly wanted to have. And this was actually, the building she's in was previously leased by Lux Lizzie's, which is another boutique that started here years ago. And they had moved downtown to the Depot District. And so it's already decorated like a boutique. It looks cute. It's ready to go. And then the cost difference, I mean, it was literally half for the square footage downtown that it was in the Depot District. And, being kind of that go against the grain underdog mentality, I told her when she asked my advice, I said, I would go with what the downtown situation looks like right now and invest in it, and then try to get involved with the downtown. There's a committee that talks to the business owners and gets ideas. And then the chamber's been doing really, really great things especially since COVID started. Didn't really pay too much attention to much that they were doing before that. So if there was good things there, I'm sure there was. I wasn't really watching, unfortunately, I'll admit it. But since COVID, I have been paying a lot of attention to it. And I mean, Melissa and Roxy, and they do really, really awesome things for the business owners and keep us really updated with what's going on with all the COVID news, the regulations, the financing, So big kudos to the chamber. They've really, really been helpful. But I thought, man, this downtown has a lot of potential. And if they do what they claim they're going to do or they're trying to do, I don't get into all that in the red tape and what's involved. So I don't want to put opinions out there. I know people that, are really passionate about trying to turn that area around down there. I know there's a lot of different opinions on how and that could happen, but I think it's a good thing that the downtown could really be something. And I think they're putting some things together now to help. I know COVID's obviously kicked some of those things and put priorities and focus in other areas. But I think once it's all, back to that normal we keep talking about, I really see them picking right back up to where they left off. And you get enough good ideas, enough people that have some passion for what that needs to be down there. It's not going to take much before they'll have something good really, really going down there. We've talked about trying to put experiences together. People, Richmond and the surrounding Wayne County area is a lot of times all that we really look at trying to get for support for some of these areas like downtown and even the Depot District. Whereas if we were able to tap into a more regional area that people could come over and spend more of a day and have kind of an experience with shopping in different areas and some attractions that go along with that experience, instead of just seeing Richmond as we'll go over there and stop at this one store that we like, or barely that. People aren't going to do that from Greenvilles and Indianapolis, Dayton, and Cincinnati. But, you know, from the outskirts of 3 major metro areas, we're within a 45-minute drive. And if we could make that more of an experience between those two, downtown and the depot area, I think, you know, get some collective heads going that direction. I think we can really see the downtown really make a come up, and even see the depot district continue to thrive and have some support there. Again, they missed that too, I think, is having that. Who would go down there for a 4 to 6 hour day type experience? And when you're able to do that, you start tying in some of the other things that we have with the, you know, hotels and the eateries and things like that when people are coming for more of that the whole day. So we've been talking amongst ourselves a little bit, some other business owners down there, and waiting kind of for that COVID to pass so that we can all get organized again. I think everybody just went into some little bit of a flight or fight mode, and you know, some of us, you're either super busy because whatever it is hasn't slowed down at all, and you've gotten busier, and there's a lot of businesses in that category, and then there's other ones that are kind of like in our category that had to pivot or flip into something else temporarily just to keep jobs going and to keep everything above water. So I think once everything gets back to that normal, everything will start coming back together in the plans that people were in the middle of when this all went down. Hopefully it'll pick right back up.
One of the things that you and I have had a chance to speak about a little bit over the last year is the opportunity, I guess we'll call it that kind of arose, the need in some ways that kind of arose to help get high school sports out to the community. With the pandemic, nobody was sure what high school sports of any kind was going to look like. The company that was really kind of doing some streaming of high school sports folded and moved on. That was a space, even though you had the DJ background, that had been a number of years ago. That was a space that you just seemed to jump into literally almost overnight. That was one of those things where it was Tuesday of the week, and you said, if we don't have it up by Monday, it's not gonna fly. Talk a little bit about My Team Live TV and how you've done that, what you've learned, and how you're working with the schools right now to put some information out there and give the high school students a chance to really be seen by the community.
I'll have to give a little bit of credit to this one for my son. I mean, he brought the idea to me and said, you know, here's kind of what's transpired and happening over here on this front. And, you know, there's still going to be, with people not being able to go to the games, a really good opportunity. And one of my best friends needs a job. So, hey, Dad.
And you're a risk taker.
Yeah. You know, I know you buy and talk pretty openly because he's a business student out at IU East. So, you know, I try to get him involved in some of the business talks, and the sanitizer that we had pivoted to, which you hadn't talked about yet, but he, you know, when that happened, I'm like, hey guys, you're out of school and I have no idea what's going on. So you're now coming and working for me, and you're going to be doing homeschooling in the business department and learning all the aspects. So they learned how to do it all. But with, you know, the My Team Live, it was like, okay, you know, what is it? Then what do you, I mean, I was fairly familiar with what was the current product that was out there. But, you know, I didn't know anything about it. I wouldn't know research, market, who and how it would even work and anything. But that was, you know, the one we were talking about. Instinctively, I just thought, you know, this is a big enough thing and a big enough opportunity that if we did get it figured out very quickly, like within a week, you know, it might be able to work. So I made a couple calls, and I had a friend in Tennessee that was doing some live streaming for some country music artists. And I thought, hey, you know, they probably know a lot more than I do. Maybe I can cut some corners and figure some things out quick. And I had a little bit of experience with live streaming like 10 years ago for Birth to Five, their event, their fundraising event, Dancing with the Stars of Wayne County. And we had put together a website and some streaming back then, but that was really just for them in that event. We never did anything more with it. I just vaguely remembered kind of how it worked. I went back to an email and some notes back then and was able to reach out to the person that had the company that we used back then, and they still have a company now. And we just started putting, the dots on the I's, the crosses on the T's, and 5 people part-time, that all have other jobs and all have other things, just divided and conquered, and tried to make it very upfront and transparent to everybody that we were doing this kind of building it as we go. And we're trying the best we can. We're not Sports Center, but we're going to give you the best product we can for what we're doing. And I think at that point people were super receptive to it. They understood we were just trying, and they were very forgiving. And we purposely made it free so that the schools could see what we were doing and we could perfect the product with a live audience, a live captive audience. Got a lot of feedback, good, bad, and the indifferent, and continue to work on it every week to get a better quality stream, to get better graphics, to get better service, to get everything better. And the guys have really pulled together, and in very, very short time, 6 months or something. I mean, we've partnered now with the IHSAA, so we're part of the Champions Network now with the post-season tournament action that IHSA sanctions and license. So that's a really cool partnership we're looking really forward to, and continue to work with the teams and the different schools in those areas. So I think the third part of that question is, what are we doing now for the schools? We've developed a streaming partnership with them where we work with the athletic director and we work with someone that someone from the school that has some experience, or really any kind of experience with any journalism or broadcasting or anything, or even just has the interest in developing a program there. And then through that, we'll reach out to the students, kind of a call out, and help them build the stream team and train each one of them on all the different stations, from play-by-play to the production to the graphics, advertisement, marketing side, all of it. And then we set them up on our platform and take care of all the stream support and the customer support, and continue to make sure people are able to view the stream. And then we work with the schools on selling the tickets and sharing the revenue with them, so that they're not missing out on the ticket sales that were typically, before streaming came along, they would only be able to sell the tickets there at the door. So this gives them another opportunity to replace some of that revenue, and bring the game to, quite frankly, sometimes fans that have never been able to see some of the best testimonials that we've seen coming across Twitter since this. I mean, they're kind of heartwarming, that like parents that haven't been able to see their kid play and they're a junior, this is the first game they've ever been able to see him play, and grandparents and aunts and uncles, they're just very thankful that there's an option for them now. And so, again, we're always looking for that win to where everybody can win on this. And athletic departments hopefully are seeing the value now of being able to sell tickets there at the event and virtually. And we want to continue to partner with them to not only replace their revenue, but also add opportunities for those students that are interested in sports. They might like sports, but they're not necessarily athletic, or they don't have the interest in playing. Right now, currently, really being a manager for that team, which are very limited spots, there really aren't any other avenues. So we wanted to create kind of like that journalism 2.0, and give that opportunity in a flexible way for whatever the school had in mind, or to either take it clear over here, or if they just want to be able to stream games. And however, we've got it set up to be flexible enough that they can kind of get in at whatever level they're comfortable with, and then a lot of opportunities for them there to replace revenue and to get students involved in the to the program itself. So it's still at its infant stage of that, and we're building it out. And here locally, we have Centerville, or Hagerstown, Northeastern, and Winchester are our first 3 partners with this program. And everything so far is really working well with it and looking good. So we hope to continue to work with them and to pick up a few more partners here in the spring to expand this in the area.
You all have built it out pretty well. You started with football, moved into basketball. You've had some wrestling. That's not bad for a startup, just kind of
Each one's a learning experience
Grabbing
too,
at
you know?
straws.
Yeah, every week it's like, okay, where's the need? It's wrestling this week. Cool. We've never done wrestling. Awesome. Now let's go figure out how to do wrestling. But you know, it's been fun. I mean, you know, there's definitely been some stress, you know, there's definitely been a little tension for sure, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's kind of fun. You know, the guys are, you know, I'm real proud of them. They typically are getting 3 to 4 days notice. And I mean, we're talking overnighting equipment, running to Greenfield, Greenwood, all over the place to, you know, make things work. And if people were to see behind the scenes, we really probably honestly, Eric, missed out on some really awesome content for social media and stuff of just, you know, last second. I mean, pulling up at 5:30 for a 6 o'clock game, and little did anybody know their both laptops were being pulled up at 5:30, or we would have had no stream, no nothing. And just some of those last minute things that we've pulled off, and nobody knows, but there's graphics that are coming in 2 minutes before game time. We're trying to work to make sure that doesn't happen, but reality is it still is every week.
It's
So
it's the case.
part
It's
of
the
it.
way it works sometimes.
It is. So we just try to, you know, we're trying to just embrace that and get better each week, put on a better broadcast, and, you know, give more to the people that are watching for their money, and then more to the advertisers that are supporting it. Because, you know, the advertiser money also gets split with the schools too. So it helps them, it helps us, and, you know, we just feel like the better product that we can put out there, the more people are going to want to watch it. And it gives those people the flexibility too, that, you know, if you're not there and you can't, you know, you can't watch it, that's one thing. But this also gives people the option, if they don't feel comfortable in their normal, whatever their personal normal is, they have an option now. If they are, you know, away from on business, or they're, you know, they don't have to rush to try to get home to get to they can still watch their kid play, and watch it to where, hey, I saw you make that play, not I think that might have been you, because, you know, there's certain products that are out there that you can barely see the number on the back of the jersey, or even what color the jersey is. So,
Sure.
you know, we want to bring a good product that's as close to watching your favorite college or sport or pro team, but in reality, it's not a commercial type program like that. So we try to take it to the limit with the budgets that we have to work with, and put on a good quality stream. So far, I think it's going pretty well.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with entrepreneur Jeremy Kean, who has a number of businesses, Suds Fundraising, which is that your longest running right now?
Yeah, definitely. It's been 8 years, 9, somewhere. Yeah, this will be our 8th year.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned hand sanitizer. Was that an idea that just came about and you decided to go? Was that a COVID related idea that came about?
That was a 100% COVID inspired idea. Funny story, not real funny, but funny. We had the wellness side, and I do a lot of research and development, I call it, but it's really just, I want to see how things work. So I order and buy a lot of goofy product just to see if it goes together. And it just so happened that some of those goofier products make up the base of the World Health Organization's formula for this make it yourself at home hand sanitizer. And so, you know, when Purell and everybody was running out of stock, the demand obviously was higher than the supply. I'm looking around going, that plus that plus that. All right, cool. Because we had just found out that literally the fundraising company is pretty much on pause. I mean, we went through our entire database of people that were currently selling or getting ready to sell the fundraiser, and they were like, hey, man, we're in there, but we're on pause. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, so it went from, you know, our normal month, which everything, you know, is set up on, to 90% reduction, snapping your fingers. So it was like, you forget about trying to make that business work, try to grow it, try to make more, you know, revenue, none of that. Now you're just like, I got to make sure I feed kids. I mean, you go from entrepreneur normal mode to survival mode instantly. And sanitizer just hit me. I saw a couple posts on Facebook. You know, I'm in that what are we going to do mode, and I'm like, well, hand sanitizer, I mean, that does make sense. People are starting to see that the alcohol's not on the shelves. And if these major retailers aren't covering it and are being able to put it out there, maybe I can find some. We've got a lot of relationships with bottlers and chemical places from the detergent side, and I never know, right? So we reached out and found alcohol and found some things to make the sanitizer. So we started making it locally, and it went gangbusters. And it was a really good, I have to say, man, it was a really good formula. It didn't make your hands dry, and totally got lucky. I mean, there was zero skill involved. I just put a bunch of stuff together and was like, oh, wow, like you make cookies that first time with that recipe and you go off the recipe, but they turn out amazing. It was kind of one of those where everybody's like, oh my gosh, you did that overnight, literally? And I'm like, I just got lucky, seriously. But it was
It's
really
better to
good
be
stuff.
lucky than good.
Oh yeah, it was really, really good stuff. Problem was, we had literally, Eric, a line out the door. I built a web page overnight, put it out there. We were doing live Facebook updates and video updates just to tell people in the easiest way we could what our current stock level was looking like and what it was going to look like over the next few days. Because I mean, literally, there was no sanitizer, hand sanitizer, alcohol, or anything anywhere. You couldn't get anything. So we went into a new business, literally. I mean, it was Route 40 Wellness, but we haven't messed with sanitizer or any of that. The products that I had weren't even for a sanitizer type thing. It was for a linen spray that we were looking at doing. So I was like, we're completely turning this thing on its head. But again, it was one of those, I caught this, caught that. And instinctively, it was just like, can we do it? Go to Google. There you go. Talked to a few chemists, want to make sure I wasn't going to eat anybody's skin off their hands, And then the WHO formula came out, and I was like, hey, if the WHO says this is the way you do it, cool. Now I just have to find these ingredients. So literally, we went down to Liberty Bell Wholesale. He helped us out at the beginning, especially awesome to work with. And we were buying literally skids of hydrogen peroxide from him, bottled water. We were buying skids of the gallon water because you couldn't buy those. You could only buy like one or two if they even had it at the store. Mm-hmm. So we hooked up with Gilman's locally, and Gilman's was awesome. They partnered up with us and they started helping us with some of the supply, and they started helping us with distribution and selling it in their stores and through business connections they had. I mean, there were days where we had 5,000 bottle orders. And 90% of it was through Gilman's and all those guys and their work. So they were awesome to deal with. But yeah, we just pretty much started finding all the product wherever we could, and then bottles and sprayers and caps and all those became, it's like, man, it's not one thing and it's another. As soon as I find alcohol, I can't find bottles. Now I can't find sprayers. So yeah, I became like this. It felt like if there was a camera on us, the best way I would describe it is like a scene out of Wall Street, the movie or something, or one of those, The Wolf of Wall Street, where it's just like the crazy trading floor. And I'm in this commodity market of isopropyl alcohol and sand or peroxide. And I'm trying to find it in barrels. And I'm like, I'm fish out of water big time. But hey, again, there's a need and the people needed it. And I had some connections I thought might be able to put something together, and that's really what it was. And then the sanitizer game just kind of really, I mean, we worked with schools. We did a lot of different things with sanitizer, but once those big boys got caught up, not only was it harder and harder to compete on a price level, but just getting the resources, kind of got into some big boy politics, I think, and a lot of big boy business that we're not into or that level, but it worked great. I mean, it worked wonderful for the time that, and it really was. I mean, it was something that was for survival. It wasn't something that we were wanting to necessarily take to that product level or anything. It worked wonderful when we needed it. And I'm just very thankful we were able to do it. And the kids all participated, and I told them, I don't know how it's going to work. Don't know what, but we're getting more orders than we can stand. I'm going to teach you guys how to do this. And within 2 weeks, we had them, every one of them had their station, had their thing, and we went from making 200 bottles a day to 200 an hour within literally about a 10-day to 13-day time frame with four kids. It was all 18-year-old labor and below. So it was really cool, and I can't wait to put that story together for some cool content, because I mean, it really was. We took some pictures and we did some video, we did some things along the way. we just really haven't had time to put it all together, but it was hands down a really fun story to be a part of. It was a really cool thing that just all came together, you know. I mean, it wasn't me. It's just, you know, God gave me great instincts is really all it comes down to. And you know, I see things sometimes quicker and faster than maybe some other people do. And I'm just able to put that together really quickly into something that can help people and make a business out of. So that's all this really kind of came together. And luckily my kids have my DNA or genes, because I mean, they picked it up immediately. And even the young one who likes to gripe about any kind of work that you ask her to do, she was putting in all kinds of manual labor and not even griping about it. So they all, I think, sensed the urgency and sensed what was going on, you know, and in those cool kid ways that they do with their friends. And they just stepped up and even brought a couple friends that, you know, came in, and we were working different shifts to make sure we had the distancing and all that stuff, right? Because I mean, nobody knew what we were dealing with. We were like, "This, you stay over there, you stay over there, put on a mask." We had hazmat suits and shields and all kinds of stuff we were doing. So it was good times. I had great stories. I hope to never have to do it like that again, but we made the best out of it, I think.
During this time, have you had friends, other people that are in business, reach out to you and ask for some advice as to how they could make some faster pivots during what has been obviously a difficult time for local business?
Yeah, I had a few for sure that reached out. Just a lot of compliments, honestly, and other people, you know, that were kind of thinking along the lines of how could you twist this or turn this, and nothing that was super deep. Most of it was just have you thought of this or have you thought of that? And they're like, oh my gosh, no. And then, you know, whether they did it or not, who knows? But yeah, I had several conversations during that time, but honestly, man, they were fairly limited and a lot of chats back and forth because we were so busy just trying to keep up those orders and you know, keep up with the what's going on with suds and when it's going to be what, and you know, all that. So yeah, we had to. The staff did a great job. I mean, all pulling together, not just the kids, we brought them on, but the current, you know, the current staff that we had, you know, we all hung through it and started working from home and different shifts and making it all work, you know, with all the different crazy restrictions. When you're small like we are, you know, this it's difficult for everybody, but you know, we were definitely multitasking and putting people in different spots to do things and trying to teach it virtually. And it was challenging for sure, but you know, we all came out better. A lot of people that needed a little come up on their technology skills got it forcefully. And, you know, there was like a ton of learning experiences, most of which are spread out on my desk through series of notebooks and things that I need to find some time to pull together. But, you know, there's a lot of great learning experience last year, and definitely how to pivot, how to think quick, how to act quick, how to put things together very quickly, and the need for not doing it again. You mean you learn this way, you never know what's going to happen. So one of the big mantras that we've kind of taken from this last year is document and templatize as much as you possibly can, so that in the event you ever do this, you've got something to go back to that may not be exactly it, but it's either the playbook that worked or the playbook that didn't work, because you're constantly changing your playbook, right? So either scrap it because you've changed it so much and now it's like, this is just a bad idea, or we're going to have to redo the whole idea completely, or the playbook eventually becomes something that works. So document and templatize that along the way. We weren't doing near enough of that. And, you know, I found myself and a lot of people doing the same work over and over and over. And I'm like, this is a good time that things have been turned upside down enough that, you know, it's kind of like when you cultivate that soil, and, you know, all kinds of surprises that come up. That was one of them for us. Just how needed that was. Like, we really do the same thing over and over and over and over and over. There's really no reason to reinvent this thing every single time. Let's just document it and we copy and paste it, right? So we've just really the culture of scalability. How do we scale? We do the same action in the most efficient way in the fastest amount of repetitions we can. So once you get everybody on that same mindset and that same mentality, that look for and empower them to look for better ways and quicker ways and bottlenecks. How do you get the bottlenecks out of that? So every week, you know, we try to incorporate more and more and more of that into the meetings, into the things, is thinking on your own and making those decisions based on well-rounded kind of business theory instead of everything having to come up to the top. You know, it becomes pretty overwhelming. So it's just been a big thing about documenting and then empowering to make better business decisions through understanding it. You know, I don't believe employees of a business shouldn't have responsibility in understanding the business at whatever level. I don't care if you're entry level or if you're executive level or anything in between. It's important for you to understand how the business works. So I'm always trying, we have a lot of younger kids around too and interns. So I'm always trying to teach the lesson within the business and how it can, really respond, or how it can really parallel to you anywhere in life. But here in this business, this is how it works. And here's kind of how it works on a general level so that there's an experience. Because then I think they can take that and then they make better decisions on things that are, future, whether they're in there or not. They can make that decision when they got that framework of thinking about it. So we've been doing a lot of that kind of work, just trying to teach people how I think through things the way I think through them. Because Jeremy's just one person, and I've already tried to scale myself and how that works, and that's one of those failure manuals that we were talking about a minute ago. Yeah, you can't scale your best employees any further than just that best employee. Same thing with owners or anybody else. So, been kind of working on passing that on and empowering, my son, for example, in school, and a couple of his friends that work with us with the My Team Live sides. How does that camera work? Why is that frame rate what it is? I learned it just now. So here, you learn it too. And then maybe in the future, I don't have to learn every single bit about that. That's the goal. That's the concept and the goal. We'll see if it ever comes to fruition. But that's what we've really been working on now is taking the good ideas, scaling those, and not spending time on the bad ones that you hold on to.
Jeremy, I really do appreciate the time. I appreciate very much the conversation.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
And what you're trying to do and what you are doing with this community. That's really important. Being willing to give back first, even before you're thinking about yourself. So thank you for that. Thank you for the time that you've given us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. If you missed any part of this original airing, you can see it again beginning at 10:30 tonight, also tomorrow night, twice on Saturday, 8 a.m., 9 p.m., twice on Sunday, 8 a.m., 1 p.m. It'll also be available on our video on demand site. Thanks for watching. As always, I wish you well.